Well, you know, I would say all's well that ends well, but all is not well. And with the recent Walker Kessler news, you know, things aren't looking that much better for us enjoyers of Utah Jazz basketball. But nevertheless, the show goes on, as the saying goes. So let's go ahead and take a little bit of a dive into the numbers. Give me 1 second. There we go. All right. So obviously dropped this one to the Pistons, who are doing not necessarily surprisingly well this season, but they're just off to a really strong start. What's good, Jeff? We dropped to 3-5, them up to 6-2. They killed us on the glass. They killed us shooting wise. They took 9 less threes than us, if memory serves me right, and only made 1 less than us overall. Uh, and so efficiency wise, they beat us. They shot like 49% from the field. We were 39%. Because we were shooting a lot of threes and not hitting them, they instead opted for twos and took 5 more overall field goals, which means they took 14 more 2-point field goal attempts than we did, while taking those 9 less threes. Um, you know, 14 in the third killed us, along with Kessler missing, allowing 60-ish points near the rim. Yeah, it was Kessler was sorely missed, and finding out that his injury is more serious than we were originally anticipating doesn't help anything else. Yeah, Walker being out is just uh it's a lot easier to go through a tank when you feel like your front office is just kind of choosing to sit players. Somebody's got a sore hamstring, somebody's got back spasms, dislocated finger, wrist injury, those sort of things. Those are always easier to stomach. But when you have Walker going in on a contract year where he was looking to prove himself and say, I am worth the max. And the original thought process was the reason why the Jazz didn't want to give him the max this season just yet was because they would end up being, because of the new CBA deal, they would basically be put in a very rough position. So the thought process was this coming off season when he's a restricted free agent, if you have to make some signings, you make some signings. If you have to make some trades, you make some trades. But before the offseason closes out, you pay the man. But it also gave them justification to say, hey, we need to see more of him this year. We need to see him not just be a guy that can block shots, but also a guy that can be better offensively and just be better totally on defense. And unfortunately, despite coming out looking really, really good, he's it's looking like he's done for the year. So, that definitely put a damper on things. And then having to play the Pistons definitely didn't make things any easier because they love putting pressure on the rim and they're very scrappy and defensively savvy. It was just, a perfect storm for all the things that we didn't want on a random Wednesday. Ace had a good game, TBH. Don't know why. I've come to the conclusion that this has to be by design. There's been too many games, like literally almost every game this season, he's played 18 or 19 minutes. So it has to be by design. I can't explain why the cap is specifically 19 minutes. I feel like some games he should be playing closer to 24, 25, especially when he plays like he did today. But, analytics reign king right now, and whatever plan the front office decided to make is what has to be carried out ultimately, at least for the time being. And it's we're in an interesting spot, and by interesting I don't mean the good kind of interesting, I mean the not fun kind. You said Walker makes you sad. Yeah, right out the gates. Gotta go. Wanted to check in with YouTuber. Appreciate you, Tyson. Hope you have a good night, brother. It's 100% speculation. I suspect Walker wanted to tough it out and get a bigger contract, but the Jazz wanted surgery but offered less money. Surgery injuries are no joke. Absolutely. It's one of those things where it's sound in theory, right? When you have a guy who's a center and he's not known for being a great shooter, shoulder injury, it's like, oh, okay, that's kind of bad, but like we just need him to be able to, clean up the glass, catch lobs, hit his free throws, right? We don't need a terrific amount. but a shoulder injury is a whole lot. To deal with just in general. And it sounds easy when you break it down into those simple pieces, but all those pieces together is a lot to ask of somebody with a shoulder injury. And if you're going to say you're going to have somebody rehab for most of the season, just work through it, work through it, work through it, they're just slowly wearing down on that area of the body. And we're just now 8 games in, and he's already been out for what, 2 or 3 games now. So he was affected. I think he played 5 games so far this season. So yeah, 70-ish games, 75 games, he would like that's a lot of wear and tear. So I do think surgery is the correct way to go about it. Um, it just sucks because this was the Walker Kessler that we were hoping to have. Like, if there's any iteration of Walker Kessler between any of his years that look like he's about his business, this year's Walker Kessler that we saw right out the gate was no doubt like cleaning up the glass, not just cleaning up the glass, but like devouring the glass. You didn't want any problems with him at the rim, not just blocking shots, but also deterring shot attempts, turning people away to the point where they don't want to even put the ball in the air around him and would much rather kick it out and shoot a three, right? That combined with him hitting his free throws, him hitting he was what, I guess since his season's over, he was like 3 of 5 from three. Um I know he hit 3 of them. One game he was like 1 of 2, the other game he was 2 of 2. He might have shot a couple more, but like it looked kind of respectable, though it was a small sample size. But yeah, the shoulder injury just does a lot. And now we have to ask the question, when he comes back, will the shoulder injury have long-term effects? How long will it take him to reach this level of play that he was currently at? Will he be afraid of certain types of physical contact? A whole lot of stuff goes into it, but you know, hopefully he kind of works through all those things, you know. He's earning more minutes, but his feet going out there like he did today makes it harder for him. Yeah, yeah, for sure, for sure. Because for some reason his feet said, "Yeah, you let me take 11 shots yesterday. Let me just have at it today." And to his credit, this was the type of game that he will have against a team like the Pistons. Is a game where he will have the most opportunity to showcase something because people that are more ball dominant or known for being ball dominant in these sorts of situations would get more touches. Lowry shot terrible today. Keontae shot terrible today, but because for the most part everybody shot terrible, we excuse Keontae's poor efficiency today because he still, I want to say he only had 2 turnovers, so it was 19, 2, and 6. That's a solid stat knife, in my opinion, especially going against the Pistons because, like I said, they're a scrappy team. They like getting downhill. They like transition. They put pressure on the rim. You're not going to force them to shoot threes because they don't care to shoot threes like that. I think they only took like 30 over the entire game, and they took almost 100 shots total. So, it was one of those games where just somebody who's an outside threat in general was going to have the opportunity to thrive, and Svi took full accountability and made something happen. A lot of people's efficiency wasn't going, but his was. Walter Clayton Jr. off the bench was also, solid. I don't think he had that many turnovers, so that was smooth. Bryce Sensabaugh, that is kind of pissing me off. What's good, Chris? Nothing too crazy. Yeah. Shoulder injuries, I think, can be a problem long after retirement. Yeah, it's one of those lasting things. Possible that Ace is not an effort or a mindset thing that's holding him back, but his frame and how tall and lanky he is may be concerned his lack of strength and needed against others. Could also be a point. We got spanked by the Pistons, and now we have Nurk as a starter for the rest of the season. Yep. Yeah, that about sums it up. Somehow, I didn't see Bryce Sensabaugh touch the court, mind you, but he logged 7 seconds of action, and that just genuinely pissed me off because I was looking at the stats in the third quarter, and I'm like, Bryce was on the floor for 7 seconds. What are you talking about? And I looked, and I was like, he's not in the game right now, so what happened? So I'm assuming it had to have been at the end of a quarter. But at the same time, why? Elijah Harkless got 10 minutes. What? Just give him those 7 seconds, dude. And I don't want to be one of those guys where, like, coach, if you're gonna put me on the court, let me hoop. Play me the full time or don't play me at all. But why are we sending Bryce Sensabaugh on the court for 7 seconds? Right? John Tanji, okay, right? Because he's more of in a two-way space. He's probably gonna get a lot more. He's definitely gonna get a lot more G League burn this year than he does in the regular season games with the Jazz. So that would make sense. But Bryce Sensabaugh, who honestly has, in my opinion, has earned PT, there has to be something going on behind closed doors, or there had to have been a conversation that was had because I don't understand how a guy that looks so good in summer league, looks so good in the preseason, comes out in the regular season, and you say, nah, no minutes for you. Like I don't understand that because he went from having like 15, 16 down to 5, and then he logged a DNP the game before, and this is effectively a DNP to me because 7 seconds is nothing, right? You wipe your feet off, you jog on the court, somebody knocks the ball out of bounds, deflection, you come right back out the game. So I don't love that. It's I don't know, dude. Let me see. Let's look at this efficiency. Maybe this will bring out my spirit. No, Taylor Hendricks. Yeah. Taylor didn't have a great game and only ended up playing 18 minutes because of it. 0 of 3 from the field. Missed his 1-3 later on in the game. Did have 7 boards, though, so that was nice. He was able to clean up the glass. 2 offensive rebounds were big. Only 1 turnover. And his box score plus minus was the best on the team, right? So he was doing something right. Defensively, he was everything we needed him to be. Offensively, he just couldn't put it together. But defensively, clean up the glass, rebounds, it was there, right? So C minus, maybe a C flat for him. Overall, Lowry, like I said, this was one of those teams where they're going to make you work. That 8 of 22 doesn't mean all of a sudden Lowry can't shoot. That 3 of 12 from 3 doesn't mean Lowry can't shoot. No, that means they just played that hard. They're a scrappy team, and that's how they get down. He did hit all 6 of his free throws, had 4 rebounds, which was a little on the lower end, 2 steals, 2 turnovers. So not super turnover prone, which was nice to see. Still managed to bag 25 points, but that -6 box score plus minus tells the tale for his stat line. Nurk, he was 1 of 7, 2 of 8, closing the game out, missed both of his threes, did hit both of his free throws down the line. Those 17 rebounds were big because that effectively is the only reason you can keep him on the floor, right? 4 assists, 4 steals, 1 block, only 2 turnovers. He didn't shoot well from the field. Again, scrappy team getting after it. They were putting pressure on him. Jalen Duren was no slouch, and we're going to get to him in a second because I do have to talk about his stats. But overall, 6, 17, and 4 is about as good as we can hope for Nurk in this sort of situation. Svi, like I said, that 10 of 16, 6 of 11 from 3, 2 of 3 from the free throw line, 2 boards, 2 assists, 1 steal, only 1 turnover, and still he had a negative box score plus minus. Keontae, that 33%, like I said, when Lowry shoots like this is one of those Keontae George games where you say, hey, we don't focus too much on that because everybody struggled with the exception of obviously Svi. 6 of 18, 1 of 5 from 3, still holding it at 5, which I love to see, right? Because even if he hits this 20% looks ugly, but remember, just like that other game, if he goes 2 for 5, we say, hey, that's a great shooting night from 3-point range, right? So 1 of 5 won't kill his metrics overall. 6 of 7 from the free throw line, which was nice. 2 boards, 6 assists. Yeah, only 2 turnovers. 19, 2, and 6. Negative box score plus minus, but overall decent. The defensive effort was there too on his side. Ace, despite the cap on his minutes that we're seeing as of late, had a lot more confidence, a lot more vigor, a lot more bounce in his game. 3 of 6, also 3 of 4 from the free throw line. Almost had this would have been his first double-digit scoring game, I think, if he hit that free throw or one more field goal attempt. Interesting that 3 of his boards were offensive, but 4 boards, 1 assist, only 1 turnover. He did have 5 personal fouls, which was also wicked. I did not realize that. That also could have kind of potentially played into the fact that he only got 19 minutes because I thought he had 3. That's kind of crazy. You know, usually I do think that there's like a soft cap on his minutes. Because there's just been so many games where he plays 18 or 19 minutes, which is oddly specific. Like it's not even 20. It's not 1956, which rounds to 20. It's like low 19, high 18. But today these personal fouls were the likely culprit behind, or that guaranteed, despite him looking really, really nice on the court today, uncharacteristic to his previous outings, is probably why he just didn't get more burn. Flip, bad shooting night, just like Taylor had, but he did end up getting 1 to go. Also hit both of his free throws, 4 boards, 2 assists, 1 block, 2 turnovers. Nothing great. Elijah Harkless was actually okay. I do see the defensive pressure that he brings. He just brings that kind of Pat Bev mentality where he may not rattle off, 15, 20 points, but every time you come down the court on him and you decide that you want to poke him, right? He's going to make you work for every bucket because he knows his buckets are going to be hard to come by. In his 11 minutes of action, hit the 1 3 that he did take, had a board, no turnovers, still had a negative box score plus minus, but in the process of that, only one personal foul. So I was perfectly fine with his minutes actually. Uh, Kevin Love I think he played all his minutes in the first half actually. 14 minutes, missed all three of his threes, which was a little disheartening. But 3 or 4 from the free throw line, 3 boards, 3 assists, no turnovers. Walter Clayton Jr. in his time, 15 minutes of action again. I think he might have a soft cap on his minutes as well, but not quite to the specific degree that Ace does. Because I've seen a couple games where he'll go from anywhere from 12 to like 17, 18 minutes. So his has a wider range. But 2 or 4 from the field, 1 or 2 from the 3-point line, which was nice to see. Hit his free throw, 6 assists, 4 turnovers isn't great, right? But I don't hate it overall. I don't. And then for some godforsaken reason, they played my love, Bryce Sensabaugh. Ice Bryce, 7 seconds, dude. Yeah, I don't. They put him in for one play, literally, because we scored on that possession. Then then it's over for his game. Yeah. Let me see. Where are we up over here? Ace is guarding Lowry in practice, so it makes sense. Lowry isn't weak and is our best scorer on the floor most of the time. Ace being put against him in practice will teach him more of Lowry. And going against him. Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. Suspect that because of every minute he's been on the court, Ace has been taking the assignment of guarding the opposing team's scoring wing. Yeah, I agree. It's a whole lack. It's just a lack of Ace time isn't because he's not defending people. And defending like people thought with Hardy's comment. I think it was more aimed at Bryce, sadly. The Jazz's season. I thought we were supposed to be developing young players and losing games. Certainly looks like they're trying to win games this year. We can't outright showcase that we're bad. To be quite honest with you, I was kind of confused when we played. What was it? Was it the Celtics that we went down to the wire with? I was surprised that we aimed to like really win those games. When we come down to the wire, we usually last season at least, and in seasons prior during the tank, it's always been like self-sabotage. You'll see Cody Williams in the last 2 minutes on the floor when he has no business being out there, or some lineup just doesn't have enough shooting that's out on the floor, or some lineup just doesn't have any rebounding really out there. And it's kind of confusing why they would throw that out there, but they call it experimentation in order to make sure they can toss those games. So I was definitely on the cusp. I was really confused. And then when Walker went down with his shoulder injury, uh, it was like a foregone conclusion that the official tanking had started. But now knowing that he's getting surgery and it's like cut for him, it makes sense now. We're about to go on a really rough, really rocky slide. And there's going to be a lot of games like this, right? Because, like I said, Nurk his times of being potentially a top 15 center in the league are behind him, right? We're not going to see that. So will he have a game every now and then where he just looks really, really tough? Yeah, probably. And despite not shooting well, 17 boards is nothing to scoff at, right? At the same time, though, we're also going to have a lot of games where if Taylor Hendricks and Flip don't shoot well from the field, those are your two forwards alongside Lowry, right? So if Lowry's having a tough shooting night, Keontae's having a tough shooting night, somebody else has to pick up that scoring load. And today, matchups allowed for Svi to get off, and he took full advantage of that. But we saw that our power forward spot was really, really struggling tonight. And that's going to be something to look at going forward, especially without having Walker, because we're leaning on a lot of other guys to step up defensively, especially because calling a spade, Nurk is not a rim protector by any stretch of the imagination. Dare I say the best rim protector out of everybody that played would probably be Taylor Hendricks. But he's better in help side than he is in man-on-man situations when it comes to protecting the rim. So it's about to get real rocky, man. Yeah, it's about to get heinous, actually. I think they want competitive play, just not just tanking for a better pick. Because after losing Walker, possible wins just shot way down. If they're competitive enough, they'll go to try actually win. I'll be anything to learn to compete. Yeah, true. Problem with the hinky 76ers style tanking is that you demoralize not just city and fan base, but the young players as well. Mm-hmm. Trade deadline is going to be interesting. I could see them trying to increase Nurk's value and getting a better rim protector in a swap. Yes, but the process worked. Philly can get free agents unlike us. I say the process almost worked. I was definitely a process believer at one point, and I still am one of those people where if you took Jahlil Okafor and you dropped him in, Brown was drafted in 02, 03, 03. If you drop Jahlil Okafor in like 2006, 2007, he's one of the greatest bigs in that era of time. But he literally got drafted at a point where, well, the league changed up under his feet, courtesy of Stephen Curry and the Warriors and everybody else wanting to follow suit. And things got ugly. But they ended up, yielding Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid. And while Embiid is, injury riddled, and it looks like he's about done career wise, Ben Simmons looked really nice until the coaching staff, the front office, the fans, everybody turned on him, and we saw how brittle certain people that were borderline superstars personalities can actually be. And then he left. He got shipped out, obviously. And then you brought in Paul George, who wanted a ridiculous amount of money. Still to this day, the stupidest signing they could have made. But not as stupid as the fact that the Clippers allowed the man to walk after giving up literally everything that they gave up to the Thunder, who then converted it into future assets, a ring, an MVP, and future championship contention. So the Clippers might be one of the more incompetent rosters in the league, but they're not hot dog water yet. Philly squandered the process with their execution once they had the pieces in place. I'd say the biggest part. That it worked, but fell short because Sixers got cold feet when Hinkie got canned. Yeah, Hinkie died, so they had an opportunity, and it just didn't come out. I lean on the process failed more because they were good, yes, but when they fell apart, and since I think they did better when they now have Maxey and VJ, which was post process. Yeah. This dude, like Walker getting I like competitive basketball. If we're gonna self-sabotage like at the end of a game and that's why we lose, and then we just sit there and say, we got to give the young guys opportunities to win these games down the stretch. Eventually, they're gonna win a couple of those games, but for the most part, right, they're not gonna win those closers. They're not gonna close those games out. But at the same time, you lose Walker Kessler, and we all know, like the writing is on the wall for us. We know we don't have rim protection without him on the court. You can say, he wasn't a great shooter, but it looked like he was turning the quarter this year for all, handful of games that he played. Like there was a lot of optimism. This was the best iteration. This was literally the perfect Walker Kessler version, borderline, like 96% of the perfect Walker Kessler that we could have hoped to have. And it's like, we're going to tank, but it's still going to be fun to watch the games, right? We're still guaranteed to be competitive. Like we would have had to try to lose games. That was the mental process. So when we're sitting here now and Nurk is our 5, we have more uncertainty than we had certainty. Because like with Walker, it was a guaranteed double-double, right? That's what he showed us. With Lowry, you have guaranteed shooting, right? Taylor, you have guaranteed defense. You don't have guaranteed scoring, though. Svi, you don't usually have guaranteed scoring. You have you have a strong perimeter presence, though. And with Keontae, he was turning that corner and showing that he can be that, that 2 to Lowry's 1 for the time being, at the very least. And then, you're just kind of fiddling with things on the bench, it seems like, with no guaranteed plan that you could go to the press conference and say, hey, yeah, this is what we're working on right now, right? And I understand that you can't divulge all your plans, but it's kind of hard trying to understand what's going on with the game and trying to understand what the coaching staff, with the front office, what page is everybody on that we're not on, right? Because usually when you see teams do certain things or when they make certain trades, you can understand an angle, right? You may not know for sure if that is the exact angle that they're taking, but usually there's a goal in mind that you can get around. But the only goal that we know is we're tanking. We want to be bad this year so we can keep our draft pick away from the Thunder and potentially, as some people elusively say, as I'm not going to say his name, but a couple other, content creators that enjoy the Utah Jazz say, we're going to get number one this year. We're not going to get number one this year, right? We were abysmal last year. Good God. And that didn't snag us number one or two, right? So I'm not gonna lie, I'm gonna miss watching Walker play, dude. Because it was like watching him reach that next level and now realizing that it got taken from him just sucks. Because it affects a lot of things. Like when one of the better players on your team is really thriving. Like he says, you know what? I'm gonna show you guys how like that I am this year. Since you don't want to pay me right now, it is what it is. I'm gonna go hoop. I'm gonna show you why you will pay me. I know you will. I will give you no other choice. And then you go in the locker room and he's always high energy. Nobody ever has an issue with Walker, bro. And then he's just and then you announce it and have to play the Pistons, dude. Like it'd be different if you announced it and you're playing like the Wizards or the Nets would be a perfect game, right? Because at least you could win that game and be like, oh man, we're gonna lose a lot of games, but sigh of relief real quick. We're not gonna we can't even get that, right? So, but we saddle up the horse and we keep on going, man. We keep on going. Yeah, they haven't. I haven't peeped what caused. You said if you ask me, it's likely all the times his shoulder got yanked backwards. No big event, just repetitive series of small ouchies. Okay, because I didn't know if there was like a specific instance because I hadn't seen it. Um, yeah, no, dude, just a bunch of little tears. Golly, script will never let us get a top three pick. Yeah, it doesn't look like it's in the cards. We can get three, never higher though. It's usually never good for us at three. But yeah, I mean, Isaiah Stewart had a good game. Asor Thompson had a good game, 18-7-4. Jalen Duren gave this man Nurkic 22 and 22. Yo, I'd be forgetting Duncan Robinson is on the Pistons now. This is the most random thing. Like he is the C of the Pistons now. Cade Cunningham gave us 31, 3 and 10. They got Karis LeVert. Dang. Shout out Karis. Yeah, just a bunch of guys down here. No Tobias Harris, no Jaden Ivey. Yeah, so not even full power Detroit Pistons, and they gave us that work handedly too. Jalen Duren must have been feeling like prime Shaq out there. Holy crap! 7 offensive boards, 15 defensive. Are we serious right now, dude? But yeah, I mean, usually I have more positives to lean on in these situations, so I can be like, oh, well, and then just kind of trail off and go on a little tangent. But there's genuinely nothing huge to lean on right here. We just gotta dog this one out. Hopefully in the coming games, there has to be at some point in the season where Ace goes from playing 19 minutes to playing like 25, even if they don't start him until post All-Star break. I feel like beforehand you have to play him up to like 25 minutes because 19 minutes right now in this economy is just bogus. Hopefully Taylor Hendrickson flip. I think I need to watch more tape on how they're playing the games right now because they just don't necessarily look like how I envisioned they would offensively. Defensively, Taylor Hendricks is everything that I was hoping he would be able to reobtain. But offensively, for both of them, it's not looking like it's clicking. And maybe because Flip doesn't have a lot as many opportunities as he did like in summer league and everything to just have the ball in his hands and create from the top of the key, you know, late in the shot clock or early in the shot clock, whichever was previously the most prevalent. That could definitely be a big piece of it because he's not used to being directed into an action and forced into an action, and then he's kind of reactive in that way. Usually, that like one of my biggest uh, appreciation points for him last season, especially, was being able to say it looks like he plays free when the offense breaks down or when it's supposed to be a dribble handoff and the person kind of gets shaded out, he can't get the ball off safely. Instead of just standing there and holding the ball until it either gets deflected, picked off, or until he can kind of force feed the guard, he puts that ball on the deck and he gets right to the rim and he's not afraid of anybody. Like I'm not seeing those opportunities the same way this year, and I think that's a big uh, cause for his, what some people will call regression, which isn't really regression. It's just him not being in the positions that, he usually would be in. That other Taylor Hendricks game that I said was literally exactly what we need from him offensively. I think it is replicable. I just think that, part of it is because he played the Pistons, but he's also had a couple other games like this year, right? I'd be foolish not to call a spade and just call those out, no matter how much I like the guy. Um, so there's a lot of things going into it. Hopefully, some of these things get ironed out so we can at least have some positives coming into the offseason when we're low. Keontae will bounce back and shoot better from the field, and we'll be like, we lost, but at least Keontae George looks really nice, right? Um, Walter Clayton Jr. should take a few more strides, hopefully. I'm trying to find like my silver lining right now, and I'm looking up and down this list, and it was supposed to be Bryce Sensabaugh. I'm not gonna lie, but it doesn't look like I'm gonna have that opportunity to glaze him like I was hoping. And without Walker, our rebounding is really gonna take a hit because like Nurk gave us the best 32, 33 minutes he could give tonight, and then you have some other fill-ins. Maybe this leads to some more. Maybe Oscar Shibwe gets pulled up. Who else are we missing? That's literally it. Because I don't we chopped Mo Bamba, sent him to the G League squad too. So maybe somebody else gets activated. Maybe we make a move and pick somebody else up just to back Nurk up and give him some extra play, or we just leave it this way and give Kevin Love 15 minutes of action and live and die by the 3-point line, knowing that we're going to struggle on the glass mightily. That could also happen. Um, it's a whole lot of pieces, of course. But I think the big thing with this tank is they want chemistry built and some drive to take it when you can for one. Okay, yeah, that's fair. That's fair. Offensively, don't need Hendricks to be that guy, especially after what happened to him being who he is. Yeah, if Hendricks can just consistently, you know, like the sweet spot in my head for him on a night to night basis, 7 field goal attempts, right? Don't need double figure. Like I said that one time, I never expect him to give me 20 and 10, right? Do I think he could potentially have us one of those games? For sure. But I don't ever anticipate that. He's more of a guy where like if he gives me 15 and 7, 14 and 8, I say that's a really good game, you know? He goes 2 of 3, 2 of 4 from 3. I say that's a really good game. I never expect him to be great value Lowry or kind of lead things, so to speak. I just think offensively, I just need him to be a consistent role player. And he's working his way through that, right? Um, and I'm hoping that we can see a really consistent thing. I'm really appreciative of the fact that, he's healthy. And seeing as we're not going to have Walker for the rest of this year, it makes me a little bit more appreciative of Taylor Hendricks' presence because it was kind of like watching him play in the preseason. I was like, oh yeah, man, that's really great. That's really great. Cool, cool, cool. He's healthy. He can play and stuff. But like seeing him play in the regular season and have some good games, have some bad games, but be out there and just hoop, sit down in that chair on defense, communicate, have active hands, which can never be overstated for a guy as lengthy as he is. Just all those little things. It makes me appreciate it a whole lot more. I will definitely say that. Because we all remember when it happened last year, it was like he has to tough out being able to walk again, right? all the physical therapy involved in that, learn how to hoop again, right? Rebuild all the connective muscle tissues and put himself back where he needs to be. Then hopefully he doesn't fall out of love with playing basketball, right? And then he has to come out on the court and still decide, I'm going to try and be the same person I was and even better than I was then. From a physicality standpoint, I'm prepared to take the blows and whatever happens, happens. And just being able to, see him come out here. And I'm hoping that we can see a similar progression from Walker when he comes back, right? But shoulder injury is devious, especially when it looked like he was turning the corner as like a shooter offensively. God bless, dude. I'm trying to think of what other like season-ending injury. I would not wish an ACL tear over a shoulder injury, though I hate shoulder injuries. Dude, I would have rather like he dislocated something or like I don't know. But shoulder injury 5 games in? Like, hold on, no, because I gotta look at his stats now, dude. Because I'm getting frustrated. I don't want Stats Muse here. Where's Stats Muse? Where's Stats Muse when you need it? Stat Muse. I don't need the company. I just yeah, 5 games. 14 and a half points, 10 and almost 11 boards, 3 assists, 1.4 steals, 1.8 blocks, 70% from the field on his highest field goal attempts in his career thus far, right? 1.63s a game, 75%. That's 5. That's not 5 for 8. That's 6 of 8. Yeah. Wait, is that really? I think that's 6 of 8. 6 of 8 from 3, 70% from the free throw line with 4 free throws a game, which means he took 20 free throws and hit what, 14 of them, I want to say, because 15 would be 75%. So 14 or 13, right? 14, got to be 14. But like, dude, 78% true shooting, 66%. That's a 12% jump, bro. The only thing that he did need to work on was his personal fouls, but like the energy was there, and that explains a lot of it. And the turnovers were like a byproduct of him just being more involved on offense. But like, dude, well, it was hey, it was a really nice start to the season, wasn't it? While it lasted, one of the most interesting starts we've had. Because where we had the Kings, or no, we blew out the Clippers, right? We went down to the wire against the Kings. We beat the Jazz in overtime. Excuse me, the Suns in overtime, right? Play the Trailblazers, go down to the wire. Suns beat us. Hornets. Then this is where we're what 2-5 or 2-6. I think we're 2-6. So I think this was the game where we didn't have the first game. No, this was our first game without Walker. I think he played. Did he play in this one? Yeah, this was the last game we had Walker, right? And then just downhill from there. But gotta find some positivities. Shoulder injuries are bad. Even if Walker has a great recovery, he won't be the same again. Someone go get that man some stem cells. They need to give him whatever Dame got, because this man Dame out here, already back on the basketball court, looking like he's almost ready to take the NBA floor. So whatever he got, whatever KD got, all these brothers that be getting ACL tears, Achilles injuries, yeah, I need you to inject whatever they're giving them, like right into his shoulders, bro. This is so bad, bro. 35 to 40 with Walker. Yeah. Yeah. No Walker really changes things a lot because like Walker was the one certainty that we had. Like that's the biggest thing that I will always harp on. Like he was showing us I'm a locked double double and I can low key shoot now. You're not just gonna foul me, right? You're not gonna foul me to bail yourself out because I'm not gonna let you do that anymore. 4 free throws a night, 70% of them. That's consistently 3 or 4, right? And if he kept that up for the entire season, everybody looks at Walker Kessler. His value was already high because they called him a shot blocker, right? But his value goes through the roof. Like, oh, goodness gracious. Yeah, I was high 30s actually. Or I was like mid 30s, like 30, 35, 36. Cause like, dude, we're not gonna worry about it too much because we're gonna experience it in real time. So why would I get frustrated with something that's inevitable for us, right? But yeah, we're 3-5 now. Take on the Timberwolves, and we know exactly how that game's gonna go. At least we probably won't get as abused on the interior because Rudy Gobert is one of the few guys that will not assault Nurkic, either from a scoring standpoint or on the glass, if we're gonna be honest. And then we play them again on Monday. 1/10 of the season down. 90% to go, right? But we'll get through it together. We'll find the sweet spots. Hopefully, we see some development from Ace. We see Walter Clayton Jr. take a step forward, right? Hopefully, we find some minutes for Bryce Sensabaugh, Taylor and Flip. We work out their minutes, decide who's the starter, who's the guy that's going to come off the bench, who has more offensive upside, and sometimes it may just be entirely matchup dependent, right? But just working that out. Hopefully, those will be like our big pins in the board that we're looking at going forward. But as I always say, if you made it this far and I appreciate y'all kicking it with me. Smash that like button, subscribe if you haven't already. Turn on post notifications. And as always, good morning, good evening, and good night, no matter where you're on the globe watching. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.